We have nationals in January. So always it comes down to Christmas time, New Year's time, and then to say, sir, that doesn't mean we can't really eat much, right? Because Taekwondo is a weighted sport, right?
Whether you have confidence or lack confidence, usually there's an emotional drive, right? That's motivating that type of a feeling. And what you're describing is the concept of coming back to neutral.
Yes.
Right? So you don't get overly excited, because then that can also hurt you too.
Yeah, the athlete has to know that's their job. The coach is there to inspire, to keep going, negative or positive. They're too happy. I need to bring them back down to the neutral ground so that they can see things clearly in the match.
Welcome back to the Cognition School Podcast. This is actually our first podcast that we're doing in studio or in our facility at the Cognitive Performance Institute. Today we have a very special guest. We have Master Fong here, and he comes from a totally different background, which I really was curious as to how things work. Master Fong is a Taekwondo champion expert. He's here to share with us some of the aspects of being a Taekwondo athlete. So welcome, Master Fong.
Thank you, Satoshi.
A couple of questions I really wanted to curiously ask for myself. Obviously, we're talking about cognitive capability. Talk to us a little bit about how you got into Taekwondo, because I'm curious about your background, and I know that you have quite an extensive background. How you got to where you are today?
It started in terms of Taekwondo. All it was Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee movies. And then my brother was like, I'm going to do martial arts. And I go, if he's doing it, I'm doing it too. And that's how that came about.
Yeah.
I graduated with a degree in computer science.
Oh,
and it was during the IT drought. So there was not many jobs available because they were laying off so much. And then my mentor, Grandmaster Myung, he said, why don't you teach Taekwondo and do something while you look for other jobs. And at that time I was already a fourth degree, a master instructor. I was already like a provincial and national level competitor and doing all sorts of different things. And then I decided to do it, and then gradually started teaching the rec programs. And then right away I had like 50 people who wanted to do high performance. And then at the time I was debating, should I continue to compete? Because I was like, I think I could still, compete, or focus on this group, and eventually end up focusing on that group. And then from there, now we're 20 years. So along the lines of 20 years there, I coached the provincial team for 3 years. I've been national team coach for the last decade. I've been to 2 Olympics, one part of IST team, and for Team Netherlands in 2020. Yeah, but it's just, that's where it came out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And obviously you've worked with some really high level athletes. And I kind of want to dig deeper into that, because obviously we're working with quite a few athletes here that are, kind of making it to the highest level in the NHL.
Sure.
I'll start off with kind of a very kind of a directed thing. What makes a world champion in Taekwondo? Like what is it that you see from a preparation point of view, how they practice, how they live their life, ultimately how they compete? Like what do you normally see here?
I think number one, you have the good coach and the good staff and the IST, a group of individuals that will cater to all your needs that you require. Number two, I think all world-class athletes that are Olympic champions or world champions have the same thing. They got a lot of heart. They train. They don't give up, and they just keep going. And it's hard to live a life like that, because as athletes, you have to be stubborn, because you need to always be thinking about yourself. And that's not wrong, but it carries out into their regular lives. But that is what keeps that drive for them to strive to be the best that they can be. So, and in our sport, being tall and having long legs, just how the sport has evolved, that makes a big difference, especially with flexibility.
So do you find that, obviously you've been doing it for 20 years. Has there been a kind of a shift towards the size, reach, and then being able to then also have that mobility, right?
Oh, for sure. I think when I first started doing Taekwondo, was like over 35 years, the ring was like 12 by 12 is huge. And then it was 10 by 10, now it's 8 by 8, now it's an octagon. And technology changed as well. Back then, you could have different types of players, sizes and stuff like that. You don't need to be tall. Everything was one point, no matter if you hit the head, hit the body, as long as you had trembling shock. That was what they said, referred to. But nowadays, they have electronic scoring system where they have sensors on their feet, and then it just registers the chest guard and the headgear. And it doesn't have to be a hard kick. As long as it touches, it will score. So it has evolved. a lot. I think it used to be very dynamic and strong. One single shot, and then they kick here, and then the big shots, and boom in the stadium, and ooh like this.
Yeah.
And then but there's a lot of waiting, just waiting, because you know they're gonna go or you go. It's just goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But today now the matches, like if you don't fight within 5 seconds, then they're like, you know, you have to go or else they're gonna give a warning to one side. And then when you get if you receive a come jump, then it's you lose a point to the other person gains a point. So. And now, especially they changed the rules of best 2 out of 3 instead of like total score. The fight goes fast. With 5 come jumps, you'll lose your match. You lose your round, and then you have to go to the next one. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's changed dramatically.
They want action.
They want action.
They want action.
I guess that's the same in hockey too. That now they're starting to change the rules a little bit.
It's like when like Italy soccer or football, and then they score a goal, and then they just play defense.
Right.
They don't want that anymore. Nowadays, games, if you're winning with 10 seconds left with 10 points, you can still lose.
Yeah,
that's how fast. That's how fast.
Wow, that's interesting. And you mentioned a little bit the technology. So now they've got sensors in.
Yeah, they have sensors in the headgear, the chest guards, and we also have video replay. And then depending on the tournament, they can have like 3D, 4D, and 4K, or everything like this.
Oh,
like
really?
It's crazy. In China, they have all around, and I think they have that at the Olympics as well, just so they can see every different angle like this. But not every tournament is like that. Mm-hmm. But obviously, the biggest events have.
Right. It's almost like on MMA style type of entertainment.
Yeah, because I think over the years, like people, they're like, how come that wasn't a point, and then now but the coaches can only challenge if there was the video hit to the face.
Okay.
Or there's some other calls there, but mostly people just save it for the headshots, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the few other calls are not used as much because if you lose your card, you lose it for your whole round or the match. So most people just wait for that moment of the card and then to play, because potential headshot could be 3 for any regular shot to the face with the foot. And spinning technique up to 5 points to the face.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about headshots.
Yes.
Is that a concern at all with the people that you deal with here in Canada, parents-wise or kids-wise?
For myself, it seems to be okay because we properly, I educate the parents so that everybody knows what they're signing up for. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, they do their trial, and then part of the trial is you're trying out the parents too. So they learn the sport and learn the process goes, and the students do too. So some of the factors is that we do the tryouts is how they train, how they interact in training, how they interact with partners, how they train on a regular basis, not just a one-day tryout and perform your best and then come back and the next day they're like, So it's a consistent process, and then also there's feedback and a report that goes back to see how well they did during those times there, where they're struggling, where some things they're doing well, and just the thing if this program would fit for them.
Right.
Now, maybe not everybody used to do it. Before COVID, I was just like invitational. I think you have talent, you can come. But then my upcoming all stopped during COVID, and then my oldest athletes all retired. My Olympians just retired this year, and another one that retired last year. So it just played out that way. And now it's like, okay, do we want to revisit HP now? And I'm okay if we just stop, because we have world championship medals in both sports, Pan Am championship medals, Pan Am game, been to Olympics, been to world champs, been all these level terms. I look at one athlete, that's 10 years, 15 years. This one needs, and then plus if they go senior or different like this, and then it's like a long time. But going back to the headshots, there is part of the sport from the beginning to the end. Is like, and when I tell the athletes, the number one thing is if you give a shot to the head, you have to receive one.
Yeah.
Be able to receive it.
That's right.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
It can't be just one way, or else I just hit you in the face all the time, and then you can't hit me back. And I'm invincible. It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
Or if you don't want them to hit you back, you have to make sure they don't.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's where they have to build their eyes, their hands, and kicking to be able to play within those parameters.
That's really cool because and hockey is the same. We teach kids to not only give a hit but also to take a hit.
Yes.
And I mean, we want them to be safe.
For sure.
Right? That's the number one concern, because obviously there's long-term impact too. But having said that, what we're trying to do here is we're also trying to teach the athletes to not get hit in the first place.
Oh, for sure.
So be able to recognize threats that are coming from different angles, and then be able to evade I
think that's big, because if you look at any sport, someone comes at you, well, at least in our sport in Taekwondo, people are going to kick at you or punch at you. They don't punch you in the face, but you punch, kick your chest, they're going to kick your head. And then there's the distance they come in when they catch you, or when they attack you before or after you kick, or there's all these variables. And like the number one thing is the best defense is the best offense, and the best offense is the best defense.
That's
so
right.
It just is like a cycle there. But if whoever does the best in the match, I think wins. Because I don't believe the best athlete wins anymore. It's the best person who played that match, the best wins. Because everyone is such at a high level that, like the 100-meter sprints, you could run .0 something or .1, and that's enough to beat someone. That's enough to win. Or you're down a few decimals and then you're like bronze or fourth, fifth place. Right? It's the same thing in the match. You make one mistake, it could cost you the whole match.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about training.
Yes.
A couple questions I have. One is, from a training perspective, how long do they train when they're working with you? Let's say on a daily basis. How long would they be spending time with you in your, do you call it studio?
We call it, we call it studio in Korea. In Korean, we say dojang, right?
Dojang, yeah.
Generally, most people in the performance program spend around like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
That is the typical time. Obviously, there's like breaks and rest in between. But in our sport, we are primarily using the anaerobic lactic stage like for energy systems. So it's not aerobic, it's used for recovery. And, so it's just you're in and then you're relaxed, you're in and out. So that is like, it's not that much different than a sprinter. But I think hockey is a little similar. Yeah. Especially if you're going and then you relax a bit to watch and then
go.
That's right. So that is a huge thing for our training there. And in our rec programs, they're generally around like 45 minutes like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like something where you're spending like 4 hours a day.
Okay. When they are with me for those long amount of times, it'll be individual training sessions. So, for example, they do S&C strength and conditioning. They'll have an hour and a half to training session here. Say they come back to the studio and they're training. This is Taekwondo. Say they come back. If there's an evening third training, that would be like, usually if it's separate in the three, one would be like a technical component, one would be tactical and like application sparring, and one would be S&C, right? So depending on the day and the variation. For the highest level, then that's what we would do here.
Yeah. As far as age level goes, if you see like an athlete and you're like, hey, I want to help them get to the Olympics or become a world champion, what's been kind of like the age level that they start at that you've seen?
This is a tough question. In my personal opinion, I generally like athletes around 6, 7 years old when they start, only because they learn flexibility. Flexibility is learned a little bit past 7. It's not long-term sustainability. It's just you got the splits now, and then half a year later, you don't practice, it's gone.
Right.
But as someone who starts at 6, there's a potential chance that it could be flexible for life, right? So just having that is such a crucial component, especially in Taekwondo today.
Right.
But most, like I said, you have to have the great team, the right people around you to support you, the athlete that's willing to work hard, that doesn't give up, because it's a long journey. It's not like, it's like, once someone's in, they're here. Like I see a lot of my athletes, they're here 10, 15 years or longer. And this past Saturday, they all came back to surprise me, and it was great to see all the athletes training, even though they're huffing and puffing. But it's just nice because they were a part of a system that was created, and I was fortunate that I had a big enough impact on all those athletes.
That's great.
And then that's very special.
Yeah, and that's very rewarding, right? Like it makes you feel like it's purposeful.
Yeah, maybe I did something right,
Right? That too. Yeah, no, we're definitely seeing something like that here as well. That we have some of our trainers that I've coached and trained as well, that they're now coming back and becoming a trainer here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you talked about strength and conditioning.
Yes.
And you also talked about age.
Yes.
When do you start doing strength and conditioning? What's a good age for them to start?
I think most people who do performance programs, they sort of incorporate it for the kids. But I think really like when they're, say, they've made their national team or they're starting, they say 14, 15, some are the boys, they say older, 16, 17. I think it just has to be, honestly, if you're using the right amount. If you're using strength to train to maintain or strengthen your muscles, I think it's fine regardless of any age because, example, you want someone to push their limit or they want them to kick faster, react faster, do more. But if their muscle is not strong enough to do that to begin with, then you got a problem because now you have a limit, and then you want to hit that red line, but then you got to push that limit. So, but then you got to get the whole body to coincide with that muscle being bigger or faster, or react faster too, right? So there's all those little things that go with it together. So, but I generally think in their teenage years, if they start, I'm not saying they're deadlifting and stuff like this or Olympic like press and stuff like this, but there are many things that they can do to, like, especially that in our sport, there's a lot of pushing now today, right? And I see all these kids now, like cadets, like 12, 14, age 12 to 14, and juniors, I see them like pushing these sleds and all that. Like, I get it, it's part of our sport, and they're just tapping into it early. But I think it's most important is if the trainer and the coach are online about what they're doing, and it's not going to cause any like damage down the road, then that's okay.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on, like obviously how fast they're growing as well, right? Like even in our sport, like you kind of have to, there's no like hard line that says, oh, the second you turn 13 is when you do this, or you kind of have to judge, right? Based on,
I think based on the athlete, their size, their shape. Our S&C center, like most of them are hockey players. Hockey players, tennis players, right? And then a few people in water sports. This so happens like this, right? So, and we're the ones bringing Taekwondo there for the last like decade or so, right? So all my athletes have been going there too. So it tends to work out pretty good, But like I said, you have to have a good rapport and system with the trainers and coaches that you have there because it's your team. And then you have to want the same thing or not. I want this, but you want this, and it's not the same, then the person that suffers at the end is the athlete, and then headache after.
Exactly. So there's the training aspect of it, and you mentioned the word react, and that this is the part that I love. How important it is for them to have that capability to react quick enough and read body language to be able to do what they need to do. Like, how important is that in your
I think
sport?
when I was a fighter, and now when I see people play now, it's a little bit different. Like before, we used to try to fake them out, draw them in, and then we just catch them like this. But today, I feel like I'm training my athletes you're training yourself to build a reaction from the other player. And from that reaction, now it tells us what to do next. First is, I'm going to come in with a set play, and I'm going to catch you like this. I think the game has evolved. You can still do that stuff. I feel if you have a set play or something, maybe the opponent maybe is not as strong as you like, but the adaptation during the match and with the coaching in reading your opponent and maybe reacting to their attacks or defense or their strategy, what they do. I feel like our sport now is very reactive compared to before because the ring is smaller. Every little thing you might get like a penalty or kamjam, what we call it, or the action is so fast if you make a slight mistake, So it's huge. And the reaction could also mean hitting the sensor at the right timing. Were you too early? Were you late? And then how accurate you were with your kicks. Or some people train that they don't look at that area and they just hit you in that area. So they look at your chest and then hit you in the head, right? So it just depends how you react. Oh, I see you looking in my eyes. Then they find another way, right? So I think in that reaction too. In terms of training, reaction, speed and all that, I think is very important too. But some athletes, we have a slow timing. And it'll hit too because the other person is always expecting fast.
Right.
So they slowed it down. It's just like a baseball. They throw like a knuckleball or like a change up, and then it slows it down, and then you miss, right?
Right.
And it'll still hit because you expected faster, so you reacted too fast, right?
So there is a too fast too.
Yes, I think so too.
That's interesting. Yeah, because we have the same type of challenges where we want kids to think fast and move fast. We also want them to change their speed a little bit, so it does throw the other person off, even in hockey. So I think that there's a lot of similarities there
for sure.
Yeah. The sports become more reactive.
Yes.
So can you give us an example of like what you would be looking at to make that decision to react to something and then counter?
Well, in the past, when I used to fight, I would always look at your shoulders. I would look at how you move. If you move this way, I know you're going to do a kick, but then people try to fake you out. If your shoulder moves forward, you're going to come forward with your front leg. But nowadays, people are so flexible, they can hold up their leg. So, like, we call it like a cut kick, and they can come up 1, 2, and then they can kick 3 kicks in the air. And then if you don't kick 3 kicks in the air, you can only have it up for 3 seconds. So it's like, And if you walk in, I always call it you get sniped, right? So it's a little bit different. So right now it's judging them, like how they move, okay? Or when you check them, are they going to even move back, or they just raise their leg right away? Then if you know if they raise their leg, they have no intention of moving back. So then you know, okay, they're just ready to come right at you, or they're just waiting for you to go first, and then they're going to snipe you right after. So then you got to see, okay, we would try to get them to lift up their leg. If we get them to lift up their leg, it forces them to play, because if they lift up their leg and drop their leg down, don't do a kick, then they would get a come jump, a penalty. So but they lift up the leg, most likely they'll have to come forward and commit. And if they commit, we can clash the leg, kick before they come, or different strategies to get them. So it gets them, now they made a move, so we can make, as long as you make the right choice.
Yes.
Decision making in that moment, because if not, then obviously result in you getting kicked too.
So that's interesting, because for the athlete, they need to be able to read every piece of your body.
Yeah, because nowadays it's like a boxer, but the boxers, the people are far.
Yeah.
Like, picture this: you're just in enough in this. I call it like the war zone, and when you engage, but like that front foot could just touch you, even if it taps you in the arm, but it just probably means their head is just a little bit further away. But if they tap you, sometimes people are gonna feel, I'm too close. Damn, he's getting close. What do I do? Do I engage, or is what some people just do on purpose, or some people just hit you hard, just constantly hit you hard. They just jam you, and then they're like, I'm moving back.
Right.
Do you take it or not take it? Or do you keep moving, and then you're risking moving out of bounds, inactivity, and then they call it avoiding the match, or there's so much stuff going on. And then a rookie player will just go, they're just hitting me so much, now I'm going to go. But then they're waiting for that moment the whole time, and then they catch you like this. So that's why the reaction is very important.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit of a mind game that you're describing.
It is.
Right?
Taekwondo, I think most sports would be the same. When you're competing at the world-class level, it's like 80 to 90% all mental, and the last 10 to 20% is just physical, just your physical preparation. It's about who plays the game better that day wins. And that's why I say the best athlete doesn't win today, because athlete is just physical.
Right.
When it comes mental, it's like you play tic-tac-toe. You don't have to be strong, but you can win, right? Anybody can win.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And I know that, so you and I talked briefly before this, but this whole notion about the ratio of, say, competition to practice.
Yes.
Right. So in the hockey world, it's very common for a lot of our players to play all season, right? So spring hockey, they're playing every weekend. Summer hockey, they're playing every weekend. They're going to different tournaments every weekend, and they seem to think that more games would help them to evolve. I'm more of the thought of you want to practice more, right? And I think you kind of agree with that as well.
Yeah, I think you have to have a right balance. We do practice more. We use competitions as application of, or sometimes we're forced, we have to compete. Those are the ones you have to, at least it gives you a timeline schedule. Or like if you're planning for an athlete for a quadrennial up to Olympics, from here, these are all the events, so let's plan backwards, and then YTP, go forward, and then see what you need to hit. But I find that a lot of people get hurt a lot. But in terms of training-wise, practice-wise, it's training like simulation, like application of the real component, doing all the drills all over again. And I get it. You can have light sparring here. You're gonna have heavy sparring on some other days because you might have cross training with different people. It just stimulates your mind. It's not the same person, or you're playing against the same people, or you're working on something a little bit different, or maybe you might be just doing the same drill differently. But today we're just gonna work on our blocking, or when we're hitting, we're gonna just work on offense, or today we're working on defense. We're gonna walk on, when you just walk right in, we're gonna hit you same timing, different stuff like this. It just depends on what you're working, but they're all pieces of the puzzles that you used when you apply. Right. It's about applying everything when you compete.
I love how you called it the application, because we don't necessarily use that word in hockey. People talk about, does it transfer?
Yes.
Does it transfer to the sport?
Yes.
But I like how you put it, because it's more, you're applying the theory and the simulation and the practice that
it has to go together
in your competition.
Yes, I think that's big.
It's a nuance. Like it's to me, it sounds like it's the same thing, but it's totally not.
You can say transfer, and then it's like,
what are you transferring?
Yeah, what are you transferring? And someone could say the same thing. What are you applying?
Yeah.
Right. Just like, which school you're applying to for school, or different but there's so many things that you can choose from. But application, at least, is like you plan something. This is what we've been working on. At least you can say transfer too. But I always say applying what you've been learning here
Yeah.
and putting it there. And don't get me wrong, sometimes if you were to compete, like say you did like 5 tournaments in 2 months, right? And there's times we did it and it was not advised to, but it was an Olympic cycle, we did it and it worked out for us for that time. But it's not advised because of the rest, you could get hurt. There's many things that could go wrong. We're banking on everything goes right, but there's 99 reasons why it can go wrong. And sometimes we have to take that chance because if you're a world-class athlete looking for a podium finish or that spot, you have to do whatever it has to take. Now, if you're just starting off, it's a little bit different. But during those 5 events, are we actually getting better? You're just playing the game, playing your game, playing against this person, playing that. Did you play good on this one? But you probably making the same mistakes, but we're just making adjustments so we don't make those mistakes. But you're not really improving overall as an athlete. You're just playing the games better those days, or against this person or that person. Just playing better because you're being coached.
That's right.
Right, with your skills, but you're not improving your. If you're mistaken the first, maybe you're not doing as much, but you probably still have that issue in those 5 tournaments too, with that same problem.
In hockey, we use video all the time now, right? So we're trying to break down not only the other team, but right down to the individual of what's that person's weakness.
Oh, for sure.
Is that something similar that in Taekwondo?
Oh
as
yeah,
well?
Taekwondo now, like everything is on social media because you can find, like, say you get hit, it's gonna go on YouTube, it's gonna be on Instagram, it's gonna be a Instagram reel or YouTube short nowadays. A referee doing something wrong, it's right away on YouTube. The first thing is the referee, I don't want that on YouTube, but it's already on YouTube, signed, posted. Back in the day, we used to record it was to scout other players, and it's still done today. We scout other players, and for myself, I used to monitor my own performance to see what it, because kids today don't want to watch themselves play. They only watch themselves play when they win. But they don't watch themselves when they lose. It's the fact that they knew they didn't do well, they don't want to see it. But they need to see it. Number one is, if they understand the player better, then they'll have a better tactical strategy. They'll co-align with the coach's strategy plan to play the athlete. Because if it goes really well, it's so easy to play. But if it doesn't, then it's a little bit hard. And then, how is it hard? Was it because the plan didn't work, or you weren't executing, or the other person really made it difficult for you? And then you can see, what did my player do when we knew ahead of time they have those techniques? What were you doing during those times? Or you could simply be like young athletes to come in and go, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. And then, just mentally they're broken down. And then obviously then it just means like, entry level athlete versus someone who's like very seasoned. Because you have to do the 30 foot, you have to know all your top players. At least you have to know some information going in.
Right.
Like if their main kick is their left leg or right leg, or what the techniques they do with that leg, like that could be potential kicks to your face, or it can impact the final score, or at least expect that can come. It might not come, but at least that there's a chance they could throw that.
Yeah. So I think you alluded to that earlier, the ability to adapt.
Yes.
Right.
Adaptation is huge.
So you still have like the strategic thing of, okay, what is this person going to do in general?
Yes.
What are their weakness? What's their strength? But then you also need an element of adaptability.
Oh, for sure. Every round changes. So if you win the first round, but if you do the same thing going in the second round, if it still works, great, keep doing it. But then if the other coach is smart and the other player catches on to you, then the second round is going to be a little bit harder. And if they win that second round, the third round, I think the person who just won that second round probably has the momentum of it. And then maybe the confidence of the other player maybe not as high right now going to the last one. But then it's going to leave it to a close or tight match unless they feel like, I made a mistake, it is on me, I'm going to take them down in the third one and no questions asked. But if you're just still going down, or usually cognitive, I go through like mental training, like if you're like green, yellow, red, light, it's a state of mind. Usually most players start going into the match between yellow and maybe green, or yellow, red, because they're nervous, anxiety. But then if you know it's on you, then you're leading and your mindset was in the green zone where you're clear, you know what you have to do, you're confident, everything like this. But the minor setback put you back in the yellow, made you doubt yourself just a little, but you knew what you have to do. The yellow could flip back to green. But from yellow, then danger, you switch to red. Now you got problems.
Right.
Now it's like you're doubting yourself. You don't think you can do this. You're probably thinking that you're going to lose. And what is my dad going to say? My coach is going to be mad or upset at me.
Right.
And then the whole world comes crashing down. Now the burden on your shoulders. And now you're thinking about all this and the match is right in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
What do you do when you find that? Like the athlete doesn't look confident, or he's a green, red
Yes.
kind of a zone. What could you do? I'll ask in two phases. One is from a training point of view, like, and you actually have some time
Yes.
before competition. That's one phase. But then there's the other phase where maybe they're in that yellow-red zone just prior to competition. Like,
Yes.
what's your approach to it?
Well, at the high level, I always think like some people will need a sports psych.
Right.
Just some. Some will need it, some don't. But some just need it just to make sure they're on the right path. But some maybe needs some clarity for what they have to. And some are like leading into training. I think a lot of it deals with the bond with the coach as well. Say an athlete's emotional, and you're just like yelling at them like this, and then you can see their eyes turn red. They're gonna cry after. Then obviously you do this on competition day. This is not gonna pan out very well, right? They're just gonna give up and walk away from the sport like this. But there's some you just gotta be like they're at the same level. Like just talk to them. Like one time, one athlete, I got so upset. I go, but they still won the match. And then I had a few words, and then they knew I was upset. I just had a few words. I didn't talk to them for 1 hour. And then came back, ready for, to get ready for the next match. She was thinking I was going to yell at her again. I said, okay, this is what we need to do like this. And like, what happened? I thought he was mad at me. I said, that was before, you need to now. This is what you need to work on and make sure you do like this. And then she ended up winning the whole tournament after because
That's great.
I changed myself. I could have continued to yell at her, but I felt like it's not going to go anywhere in that time. It's not the right place. We can go back to correct those mistakes, but all it was just eliminating those mistakes. I'm more a logic person, so I'm not too emotional in trainings, or I can get upset, but it's all because of it's not happening the way it should be.
Right.
So when problems come, I'm not thinking like this. It's more so logically, is this right or wrong? What can we do to fix it right away? But then the athletes generally have a more emotional feeling first, just because logic is not there right away.
Right.
So then you just need to get them to realize and understand, if you got hit in the head, it just means you're down 3 or 5, depending on it. It's just 3. It's a game of math. You get a body shot, now it's 3-2. Now you're just down by 1. You hit one more body shot, you're going to be up 1. You hit a body shot, headshot, like you're tied 3-3 or whatever the score. So it's a game of math.
Right.
So you can't just be like someone scored on your goal one time and then you give up.
Right.
The score's going to be 1-0 if you don't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's just a game of math. And I keep teaching all the athletes there, and it's okay. Then it's more so teaching them, okay, if I'm down in these situations, what do I do? Okay, then we do winning scenarios and then losing scenarios when we play, how much time we play early in the clock, just so you don't run out the last 10 seconds. All the athletes just run away at the last 10 seconds. And they have warnings to give away, they'll just keep running out, and then you lost your round or whatnot like this. So it's just those different situations there, so that these situations feel normal. You got to make it feel like it's normal. Any objection or any negative thing is normal. It has to be normal. You're used to it, but it's about what you're gonna do to play.
That's fascinating. From a confidence point of view, obviously, whether you have confidence or lack confidence, usually there's an emotional drive, right? That's motivating that type of a feeling. And what you're describing is concept of coming back to neutral.
Yes.
Right. So you don't get overly excited, because then that can also hurt you too.
Yeah, I feel like coaches, trainers, everyone is there is to inspire them to change their thinking or be a certain way. Yes, coaches, we can motivate them, but if we are responsible to motivate them, then we have to motivate them to come to training too. And most of the time, people are not motivated to come to training. It's like a job. If you're a world-class athlete, like training like this, when you go to work, sometimes I don't want to go to work today. Same, but you're motivated because you know what you have to do. This is your job, or you have to do these things. Or for me, people are relying on you. You have to go. That's part of it.
Right.
But the athlete has to know that's their job.
Right.
Coach is there to inspire, to keep going. Or if those negative or positive, they're too happy, I need to bring them back down to the neutral ground so that they can see things clearly in the match. Obviously, in negative, you got to bring them up. It's just like they're sinking in quicksand. You're just like, adding to the fire. They're just gonna sink faster, right? Like, you move more in quicksand, you sink faster, right? So it's the exact same thing. So you gotta like sort of save them. And then that's why when I try to coach the athletes, it's like I used to use like, if they are playing well, then I give them freedom.
Okay.
If the game gets tight, then I have to tighten up their game just so that they can't afford to make as many of those mistakes. You got to play a tight ship, tight game. So it makes it very hard for the other player too. But then when it starts opening up, then you give them some freedom back again. So then it's like, they felt like they got through the hardest time on their own, but with you watching them. And then they're able to overcome that too.
Right. And obviously, as you give them that freedom, you're still watching and observing.
That's right. And when they're doing good, I'm like, that's it, good. Yeah. Keep going like that. Yes, that's it. That's what we're looking for. And then there's like affirmation, that they're applying what we're doing. It was just correct. If there's not, it'll be like, okay, reset, calm down. Don't get ahead of yourself like this. There's time, or don't worry. Like those kind of. If you worry so much as coach too, then I feel like you just putting extra pressure on your athlete.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's really good. When it comes to obviously competing practice, is there ever an off season in Taekwondo?
I would like to say so. I try to make one for the athletes because in the World Taekwondo schedule, usually they just don't have events. They try not to have events in January. December, there's not many, but sometimes we have a World Taekwondo Grand Prix, which is like one of the biggest events at the end of the year for the top ranked athletes, and then you're only invited based on the high rank.
Okay.
So in that case there, most people who are not invited, they pretty much have December off, right? But the season generally is supposed to be February to end of December. In Canada, sometimes we have nationals, or for the last so many years, we have nationals in January. So always it comes down to Christmas time, New Year's time, and then to say, sir, that doesn't mean we can't really eat much, right? Because Taekwondo is a weighted sport, right? So then they don't get to enjoy it, right? Or like, if they're adults, right? Eat, drinks, they enjoy with their friends and family. But if you have a competition the first week or second week of January, and you're like, and plus I have to train through the holidays because, like the calories and everything that's sweated off, right? So, and some athletes have to train so they can eat. Some athletes just have no choice, but they have it a little hard, and then they have to maintain their weight throughout the whole time.
Yeah, so it's hard to just kind of like let loose.
Right? Like some athletes I know, they do it properly. They take 2-3 months and they bring it down, but like that also depends on the timing. Some athletes I know, some people do that UFC water loading, like 10 kilos and down in 1 week. I don't recommend it, but if it works for them and they have energy, then it's great. But if it's just like 1 or 2 kilos, like it's not too hard, then I think eating properly, proper diet too. You can still have your cheat days on the weekends and stuff like that, but you just gotta be disciplined. That's a big thing there.
Speaking of nutrition, what do you recommend for like a nutrition kind of a regimen for an athlete? Let's say they're going to like an Olympics.
I think everyone is different. I think it also depends on your background, your nationality, because most people preparing your food is your family. So if you're talking about Asian parents, in their household, the rice and noodles is huge. But then when I have all these athletes out there, they're like, you don't necessarily have to have all those like unnecessary carbs to keep going. But yes, you need your proteins, right? You need your greens. You need everything, like even for recovery. Like first thing is, okay, after training, okay, you guys have to recover, right? So you guys have your snack or your protein drinks or whatever you guys have. Like you have to think about all, because the body's constantly burning all of there. But obviously, if you're an athlete, full-time athlete, you can afford carbs too here and there, right? Here and there. But I'm just like saying on a regular scale, if you're just having like most of those top athletes, they're not really eating much rice, or they start cutting into up to here. I know this is my schedule works like this, 8 weeks out, 6 weeks out, and then I have to start cutting down from like this to like less, and then to the last few weeks they don't have any at all or whatnot like this, right?
It's interesting. So I mean, we have pre-game meals.
Yes.
Right. Some teams at the NHL level these days have been pancakes.
Yes.
Right, and lots of greens as well.
Yes.
For pre-game. Is there such thing as a pre-competition meal?
See, this is the thing. Now they incorporated a thing called a random weigh-in now on the day of the competition.
Oh, right.
So what happens is you weigh in the day before. 25% of your category gets weighed in on the morning of the competition, 2 hours before. This is to prevent people from massive weight loss and weight cutting. So there's a chance you can't be more than 5% more than your weight that you weighed from your limit from the day before. So if you're chosen, that means, okay, they say they want to be safe, but if you're the one who is cutting a lot of weight, that means you're just not eating another day.
Right.
Or it's waiting till the morning to eat like this. But if you don't get chosen, then those people, they probably have their breakfast that they want to have, but they don't let you know it's like 6 or 6:30 in the morning, or it's like then they go, oh, the list comes out, then because you don't know the night before. So everyone has to wake up the morning of, if I check, random way, is your name on the list, and then if you don't, they're either sleeping in or they're gonna have some more breakfast like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that weighted sport concept I didn't even consider. That's great. And as far as I know, we talked a little bit earlier about when they start. Is there kind of like almost like I wouldn't say a limit, but when you would consider, what, maybe a little bit too old to get ramped up to, say, an Olympic, become an Olympic athlete. I know you had some exceptions to that as well.
Yes, I think if there are athletes transferring from different sports, they're exceptions because I think they're already training like an athlete. So but they're just now learning the technical and technical to go with that sport because their physical matches the description of what a Taekwondo athlete should look like today. Like today, you wouldn't see a bodybuilding athlete now in our sport because our sport relies on range of motion, reach, flexibility. Well, and the bodybuilders, they're busy contracting their muscles more and building muscle mass, right? And if you're so big, you're only going to be in one of two categories. And then obviously height is a big thing as well, right? So those are different. Back in the day, you see people's shape like that more. Nowadays, they're all like lean, tall. They're muscular, but not muscular like a bodybuilder. In that way. Long legs, flexible. All at the high level, they're all pretty much flexible and dynamic, and they're fast, good athletes in the sport. So, but we've seen a lot of transition. Like, I think China uses a lot of people from like basketball or like volleyball switching over to Taekwondo, and they just gotta learn how to kick, right? But with great programs like this, in Canada, I think it's a little bit harder to do that. Although I do have people who are like doing different sports and like hockey, soccer, but then when they decide, when they get into teenager, then it could be like, okay, in soccer, for example, or hockey, to make the Ontario team, how hard is that? Very hard. But for us to say, can you make Ontario team? It's not hard because we're specialists in this, and maybe there's not as many athletes in there, but it's still hard. But we have a formula to make it. Okay. Then you go, how hard is it for an athlete to make the national team in Canada? I assume it's hard.
It is hard.
Especially because it's team sport, right?
That's right.
It's very hard.
You kind of have to grow at a certain pace.
Even though we're an individual sport, it's hard, but then I feel it's not hard because we have people who've made it over the years. Like we have like over 100 gold national medals for the last 20 years. That's sort of average between both sports, sparring and the Pumze. It's about like average about 5 a year, right? But it's, we've done it, so it's there. But people who've never done it, it must look like a mountain.
That's right.
It's like hard to do like that. So, but in terms of like when it's too late, it also depends. Like I think there could be many exceptions, but obviously I think if you're not really flexible and maybe you don't know the sport or you don't even know martial arts yet. Like I've seen some people just like get some people off the street and hey, come to the sport. But the sport was a little bit different back then. But if you're looking at a dynamic like a fin weight, a flyweight, or a bantam, like their skills is so at such a high level, and then you're just starting maybe like you're 15, 16, just trying to start out. You might do okay in the martial art, Taekwondo, recreational competition like this. But I think maybe at like the world class level, it probably pretty hard because the age of peaking now is getting younger and younger. So like I think there's a study back then, but it's like around 21, 22 years old. And it used to be like 25, 26, and it's dropping, right? And then the youth, right? You have like older players in the league, and then new ones coming up. Then obviously the young ones have no fear. But the older ones are like, oh, I've gained all this over so many years. I need like to defend myself against these new ones up and coming. But when you're older, working with a lot of older athletes over the years, it's like you're trying to maintain their abilities and keep everything going.
Longevity.
at the high level, sustaining performance.
Yes.
Versus like, accelerating performance or developing these different processes to get to there.
Right.
But now when you're over there, it's like it gets harder. And I see all these older players, like these guys, they're fighting and they were so good before, but they're just hanging in there. But they get the job done still because of experience.
Right.
But then once these new ones get their experience, then it gets quite hard after.
Yeah. Do you find that there's benefits of having like multi-sport athletes that are in Taekwondo, but potentially could be in other sports?
Oh, for sure. You know what? I benefited over a lot of athletes that come from gymnastics, figure skating over the years, because the year for them, it's like, I don't know, like 10, 12 years old. It's like if you're not making it at a certain point, you're considered maybe you can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Then they switch to Taekwondo. It's flexible. They can do everything. It's great.
Right.
But that is for like the Pumse, which is like the martial art part of Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
Sparring, on the other hand, I had people who were playing soccer, people play hockey, and transfer over. And then some of them do quite well. It's just a matter of maybe how their flexibility is or whatnot. But they all have a strong work ethic and training, and because they've been in some sort of organized sport. Mm-hmm. So as long as they've been through that, then you don't have to start from scratch. But then it's just like you have to go through all the baby steps with them to get to where they need to be.
Right.
And it's easier if you have a program already existing that can do that. But if they're starting fresh and don't know any martial arts whatsoever, then it can be quite hard.
Right. But for the most part, like what you're describing is kind of like, taking what they've done in the past, and then transfer that into, and redirect that energy into Taekwondo.
Oh, for sure. Any sport, especially if it's Taekwondo that moves with your feet, I think you can apply it to Taekwondo because we're more foot dominant, right, than the hands. But we're still blocking and punching, but like it's more strategic to use your longer weapons than your, like I say, our daggers or whatnot like this, right? And that's how it is. But now today, there's a lot of the points are scored, then they're just right in front of you. You just put your hands and they just give you a body shot or that nice like headshot or whatnot. So it's become a close game and a distant game. And that's also the evolution of our sport. Mm-hmm. It used to be, you come and then I got you with the big one, like a nice counter, there's all big counters, like just boxing, that big uppercut, there's a counter, you dodge and you hit it, and big trebling sound like this. But now today it's like just you meet the power and the connectivity, the threshold, points come up right away.
Yeah, that's great. Do you get any hockey players coming to you to learn how to fight?
In the past, I did dry training for hockey teams, not a few hockey teams. Dragon boat, I did it before too. Volleyball, I did it before too. Some different sports, just in the summer because that's their off season. Mm-hmm. But like in Taekwondo, there is not really a very clear off season because all the tournaments are usually in the spring, summertime, and the fall. It's just constant like this. But we do have a lot of them, and for the ones who stay in Taekwondo, they end up phasing out that portion of that sport and coming into our sport. Only because they feel like the potential to do better in Taekwondo has a greater chance than if they were to do, because maybe they knew they're just maybe mediocre, or obviously if they're a star hockey player like this, if they did Taekwondo, obviously go where the money is. There's not much money invested in Taekwondo. It's an amateur sport too, right? So obviously like tennis or like golf, have athletes who are like golf players, go there. But if you really want to do here, like it's okay, but that's where it's at for your future as well, right?
Right. I mean, it's really a combination of that passion you talked about,
for
right?
sure.
They need that passion to do something because they enjoy doing it, not just because of the money's there, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well, this was great. I really appreciate you coming in today. Yeah, really looking forward to learning more about Taekwondo. I did Kendo growing up, so I only know a little bit about what's in that sport, but it's always great to get a different perspective. So thank you very much
for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So that concludes our podcast for this week. Stay tuned for the next version of Cognition School. Thank you very much.